Oh, hi. I'm Debbie Reynolds. We're here on the very lot where we shot Singing in the Rain to celebrate its 50th anniversary. You know, when we made the picture, no one had the slightest idea that one day it would be listed among the greatest films of all time. We simply thought we were making a big, splashy MGM musical, like so many others that were so popular in the 1950s. Now, if you've never seen the movie, you may ask what makes Singing in the Rain so special. For years, film historians have analyzed this tightly woven story, spectacular musical numbers, and wonderful performances, only to come to the same conclusion that it's just a fabulous movie. The story began a few years earlier when the Hollywood Reporter announced that Arthur Freed had started preparations on a new musical entitled Singing in the Rain. The item alleged that tap dancer Ann Miller would star, along with a large cast of top studio personalities. Freed planned to use his catalog of songs in a film based on an earlier MGM picture entitled Excess Baggage. But Arthur believed an original story would serve the material better, and he enlisted the talents of his trusted writing team, Betty Comden and Adolph Green. Through the collaborative efforts of the creative team, the script was to undergo months of revisions, most notably to the musical numbers in the film.
I'll kiss.
There was a sequence where Don and Kathy fall in love to the song, Would You, against a backdrop of changing scenery on the back lot.
The girl were I, would you?
But later, the location was moved to an empty soundstage, and the song changed to You Were Meant for Me.
You were meant for me.
The tune, I've Got a Feelin' You're Foolin', was planned for the character Zelda Zanders, played by a teenage Rita Moreno. But it was cut by the second draft. And believe it or not, Gene Kelly's version of Singin' in the Rain was not in the original script. The number was intended as a trio for Don, Kathy, and Cosmo to cheer up on the way home after their disastrous preview. But in the second draft, this plot point would become the song Good Mornin', with Gene's solo Singin' in the Rain in place. If the script had stayed as it was, the world would never have seen Gene Kelly's Singin' in the Rain. Once again, the Hollywood trade papers announced that Arthur Freed's new musical, Singin' in the Rain, would star Gene Kelly, with Stanley Donen as co-director, and a young hopeful, me, Debbie Reynolds. When I came to work for MGM, I was only 15 years old, fresh from winning the title of Miss Burbank of 1948. My family were Nazarene, and back then the church preached that it was immoral to be an actress in the movies. But my daddy could see that MGM was a big, hard-working family, and there was nothing depraved or evil going on. My mother also allowed it, and became very supportive of my career, though she couldn't understand why all this was happening to me. By the time I appeared in 2 Weeks with Love, I was 17 years old and had played 5 supporting roles at MGM.
Debbie had done this remarkable number called Abba Dabba Honeymoon. When you watched it, you adored her. So we said Debbie Reynolds, and Arthur said great.
My first work on the movie was taking 3 months of grueling dance lessons with dance captains, Carol Haney and lovely Jeannie Coyne, whom Gene would later marry. At the time, I wasn't a dancer at all. I was a gymnast. And I was very insecure and frightened that I wouldn't be able to keep up. But I kept right on practicing my steps. And the wonderful thing about Gene Kelly was that he made you feel you were capable of more than you had ever done. He would come in, watch my rehearsals, and say, work harder. And I wanted so much to prove to him that I could pull this off. So I worked harder. On May 22nd, 1951, we started pre-recording the musical numbers for the movie. This included Gene Kelly recording his famous Singin' in the Rain number on June 5th, and my solo, You Are My Lucky Star, on June 13th.
Now, look at what you've just done to me. Now, it's too late to pretend. I tried to play smart, but right from the start, I hoped this was how it would end. I told myself it was ridiculous, a silly adolescent amour. I argued the cost, I argued and lost, and now of one thing I'm sure. You are my lucky star. I saw you from afar. Two lovely eyes at me, they were gleaming, beaming. I was starstruck. You're all my lucky charms. I'm lucky in your arms. You've opened heaven's portal here on earth for this poor mortal. You are my lucky. I wonder how many girls would consider it lucky to be held in the strong, manly arms of Donald Lockwood, the glamorous star of the silver screen. A year ago, it had scared me half to death. That was when I was a member of your fan club. Fan? Me? I was the president. Why, you know, I waited outside the Brown Derby for 2 hours one night just to get a glimpse of you. But it was worth it. You looked so dazzling in your green knickers, yellow sweater, and orange beret. I just swooned. You see, I was starstruck. And now that I've confessed, I'll tell you all the rest. You're my Fairbanks, my Marino, Rodlow Rock, and Valentino. You are my lucky star.
On June 23rd, 1951, I got to the studio at 5:45 a.m. for my makeup and hair call, and I was petrified. I knew I had to be on the set by 8 a.m. for my first day of shooting on the picture. That day, we were going to be filming Good Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. It's great to stay up late. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And I remember sitting under the piano one day, and everyone was rehearsing, and I was so exhausted. And I was sitting under the piano, crying away, and all of a sudden, the legs walk by the piano, and a voice says, "What's the matter, little girl? Why are you crying?" And I said, "Because I'll never learn how to dance. It's just too hard. I'll never learn how to keep up with Kelly." And I'm very sad for myself. And so this hand reaches underneath and pulls me out, and it's Fred Astaire. He said, "Now, Debbie, learning to dance is the hardest thing you can do. But you have to work hard because that's the only way you can be perfect. You come and watch me rehearse for a few minutes." He never let anyone watch him rehearse. Fred Astaire rehearsed with a guard on the gate, on the door. And he had a drummer and a cane and Hermes' pan. And he would go through the steps, and he would create the steps with the cane and the drummer only. And he was brilliant, you know, of course. So I got to sit on the floor, and I watched Mr. Astaire rehearse for about 2 hours. And he broke the cane, and he threw the cane, and he got so frustrated. And he'd look at me and say, "This is how tough it is. This is how tough it is to learn to do things really well and to be great. If you can be, and you can be, you get back in there and practice some more." We wrapped for the day after 14 hours of shooting, and when I took off my little blue shoes, my feet were bleeding from all the dancing. It isn't all fun and games making movies, kids. But after my feet healed, we photographed You Were Meant for Me on June 30th. I was an 18-year-old girl from Burbank starring in my first leading role with my hero, Gene Kelly, playing a starstruck kid enamored with her movie idol. You know, when they say art imitates life, they weren't just whistling Dixie. Hiring me to play Kathy Selden was typecasting, plain and simple. They didn't want someone to act the part. I was that young, inexperienced girl you see on the screen. The total cost of the picture came to a hefty $2.5 million, which was a big budget in 1952. The film was given a preview and received unprecedented approval ratings. And the studio's publicity machine went to work giving Singin' in the Rain a big promotional build-up to make a return on its investment. There were ads in all the trade papers, not to mention a host of promotional tie-ins with an angle on the 20s nostalgia popular in the 50s. There were Singin' in the Rain coats and parasols. A soundtrack album was cross-promoted with radio disc jockeys. There was sheet music available as well. And finally came opening day at Radio City Music Hall, where the movie was accompanied by a live Easter-themed stage show. There was even a souvenir program for the opening of the movie. The following Monday, Variety claimed Singin' in the Rain the weekend box office champ, grossing $95,000 on opening day. The studio had a hit and hyped it further by using its greatest asset, movie stars. Naturally, Gene was given a great deal of press. And concurrently, publicity head Howard Strickling went about promoting MGM's new contract star, me. The studio had fostered my career, and when I became a hot property with the movie, they cashed in with guns blazing. Suddenly, I was in a PR whirlwind, shooting publicity photos, promoting products, conducting radio and newspaper interviews. The angle was that I was a little girl from Burbank who made it big at MGM, which was all true. I even got my first Life magazine cover from the publicity surrounding the movie. My Hollywood dreams were coming true. In just a year, I had graduated from supporting player to top star at what my friend Esther Williams called MGM University. I'll always be grateful to have worked on Singin' in the Rain, not only because of what it did for my career, but because I got to work under the tutelage of Gene Kelly. I was a very lucky young girl to have had the opportunity to learn from such a determined, powerful, and gifted man. He taught me an incredible work ethic, and after all these years, it lives on, so thank you, Gene. Over the last 50 years, there have been enormous changes in the business. They don't make musicals much anymore. MGM has changed hands numerous times, as has this lot, which was once the birthplace for some of the greatest films of all time. But what hasn't changed is Singin' in the Rain. It's still wonderfully fresh, wildly exuberant, and will always give us that glorious feeling.